Before we get into today's video, I have a little background as to why I'm uploading this video. If you don't care about that, I'll have a little time up top that tells you when the video actually starts. So, for the past couple of months, a certain YouTuber by the name of Mitten Squad has been on a hiatus, and he's the one that makes some of the best Fallout challenge videos I've ever seen. But ever since he was on hiatus, it's been a little dry in the content involving Fallout that I'd actually like to watch myself. So I decided that I would make a Fallout challenge video, but only to try and sate some people's appetite for content like this. Mitten Squad actually just very recently came back from his hiatus and is making videos again, which I'm really happy about. This will more than likely be the only Fallout challenge I'll ever do, unless there seems to be a dire call for content like this on the channel. I'd definitely rather leave this kind of content to Mitten Squad. So, think of this video as a sort of love letter to Mitten Squad and the great content he makes. I'm going to put his channel link in the description, definitely go check his stuff out. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Fallout New Vegas is a game all about choice. What kind of person you want to be, what kind of weapons and armor you decide to use, and eventually the fate of New Vegas as a whole. But what if you wanted to make a choice the developers never meant for you to make? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas without ever being detected? No. The answer to that is no. As soon as you wake up, you've got this guy staring at you. So technically, it's impossible, right? Well, if we bend the rules a little bit, I think it is possible. When you first start the game, you can't actually crouch to sneak until you leave Doc Mitchell's house for the first time. Which leads me to believe that this part shouldn't be counted as a real portion of the challenge. You can't use a main mechanic until you leave the house for the first time, so I decided that it was fine to not include it until we left for the first time. If you don't agree with this, tell me about it in the comments below, please. So we start up the game and name ourselves something productive. I'm not worried about how our character looks, because if everything goes right, no one will see him anyways. I head to the Vigor machine to start assigning special points. Since we are completely reliant on sneak, I jam all of my points into agility for a higher starting sneak skill. Then I drain charisma and endurance, since we won't be talking to people or be getting hit very often, and I max out intelligence and give myself a decent perception. This is what my stats end up looking like. I quickly answered all of Doc Mitchell's questions. I chose sneak, guns, and lockpick as my tag skills, and Logan's loophole and trigger discipline as my traits. I'll explain my choice of Logan's loophole in a little bit here. Doc gives me my Pip-Boy, and I decide to take my first steps outside, and immediately fail the challenge. During this run, I relied heavily on it being nighttime, so I loaded the save to try and wait inside Doc Mitchell's house, and remembered that you can't actually wait until you leave his house for the first time. So I sat in a chair, and I waited for it to be nighttime. This took around 15 minutes. Once it was 9 PM in the game, I got up and I went outside for the first time again. I had to crouch immediately to stay hidden. Then I made a choice that would affect the game for the rest of the playthrough. If I have to play the whole game undetected, why should I have to worry about people noticing me if I have to go back to a place? So I decided that almost everyone I met needed to die. I went back into Doc Mitchell's place, and I eventually got this nice shot of me spearing his arm off. From here I decided that I wanted to kill Chet so I could take the silenced .22 pistol in his shop. I blow Chet's brains out, and I steal his goodies. Next was Sunny Smiles and her dog. After a few dozen attempts, I finally managed to spear Cheyenne and Sunny Smiles. Trudy and Joe Cobb wandered in, and gave me my first real bit of trouble. See, it's really hard to kill someone when they're talking to another person face to face. After some attempts, I decided to wait until Cobb ran to the door to leave, and I eventually speared him by luck, and I did the exact same thing to Trudy. I go outside, kill some big owners, loot the school, and kill Ringo. I also noticed something for the first time. If you steal this ammo, you gain NCR infamy, which I only slightly noticed, but this affected the run later on when I was trying to not have the NCR Legion notice me, so it kinda sucked. Prim would be my first stop because I was trying to follow the story as best as I could, even though I couldn't really do missions. I decided to change some of my stats before we got too far into the run. This was mainly because I wanted more perception, and I wanted to get rid of Logan's loophole. See, when I started this run, I knew that I needed Stealth Boys to actually beat the challenge, and for some reason I thought Logan's loophole affected Stealth Boys, but it doesn't. This is what I ended up changing my stats to. Also, I just noticed that I forgot to change my endurance and intelligence, and never noticed the whole game. I ended up picking skilled and trigger discipline as my traits this time around. I leveled up, and I dumped all my points into sneak, and chose confirmed bachelor as my perk because I thought the extra damage would help. On my way to Prim, I killed powder potatoes, geckos, and bloatflies. When I got to Prim, I remembered that this NCR trooper runs up to you to initiate dialogue. so I killed him from a distance with a varmint rifle. If it seems like I'm just grazing over my encounters, it's because I am. I had to save and reload so many times during this challenge that by the end of the game I had nearly 460 save states. So I decided I'm only going to talk about the really frustrating encounters. I killed some more troopers who were in my path, and then I stopped at the sheriff's house to grab his cowboy repeater. The powder potatoes made it difficult to get into the bison Steve, but I eventually got a good shot on one, and waited for the other one to stop searching for me, and got him too. Inside the bison Steve, I had troubles with the first 2 powder gangers, but then they started to do this thing where they walked directly into my crosshair, and that made it much easier. The rest of the powder gang are complete pushovers. And then I freed Deputy Beagle, and he gave me his journal in return. I head upstairs and clear the rest of the powder gangers from the premises. What would normally take about 10 minutes to clear took me 30. Spending extra time doing things was a very big problem in this challenge. But, with a new location to get to, I head to Mitten before I go to Novak, if only to kill Vulpes and Kala. On the way, I stopped at Jackrabbit Springs to put down a few abominations, and to snag the stealth boy that was lying on the ground. When I made it to Mitten, the first man I saw was Oliver Swanik. He looked so happy to have won first place in the lottery that I don't think he even noticed when I took his head clean off of his torso. I tried to talk to Boxcars, but every time I went into the house, he noticed me immediately. The powder gangers that were crucified were a real pain to deal with because they were on both sides of the street. After some careful planning, I got them all off of the crosses. No need for any more suffering, right? A couple of well-placed grenades was all it took to kill off most of the Legion soldiers, and the only one I had left to deal with was Vulpes and Kala, which a quick headshot and a quick body shot put him down for good. For some reason, after I killed Vulpes, I decided it would be a great idea to go into the main building. That was a stupid idea. It was one of the biggest wastes of time in this run, mainly because the dogs had a solid perception stat, and there was nothing important in the building anyways. So after I wasted 40 minutes for nothing, I left pretty empty-handed. The easiest way to get to Novak is through a canyon filled with Viper gang members, and to say the least, they had no idea what was coming for them. I also took an unnecessary amount of time trying to kill this caravan of traitors. Killing them from a distance didn't seem to work. Trying to kill them from behind didn't really seem to work either. I had a stroke of genius though, and decided to kill them all with some spears that I picked up from some Legion soldiers that they killed. Honestly, spears came in so handy during this challenge. I ran into some mole rats, and spent a few minutes trying to blow them up before I realized that it was a big waste of time. I did run into some Legion soldiers though, so I can happily say that I added more spears to my collection. Once I finally made it to Novak, my first stop was to kill this old lady for her hunting rifle, but she had an unusually high perception stat, so that was off the table. My second stop was to turn Victor into scrap metal. After that, I went into the Dino D-Light gift shop and stole all the toy rockets and that gun. I wanted to kill Boone or Vargas, but every time that I went up to the perch, they were facing towards me. I really honestly didn't kill that many people in Novak before I left to go to the rep contest site. The rep contest site is one of the most important places in this challenge. It's home to about 6 or 7 stealth boys, and we direly need those to beat the game. So I made my way there, and I stopped along the way and looted the bridge. Now, the ghouls at RepCon really weren't too hard to deal with. It was the Nightkin in the lower portion that were a real pain in the ass. But before I could make it to the basement, I decided to clear all the ghouls from the upstairs first, so I could claim a few stealth boys from the dead Nightkin ash piles and 2 from a safe. The basement really was the part of RepCon that took so long, and it's really only because Nightkin don't actually spawn in until you get close to them, and by then you're close enough for them to notice you. They also like to run around like complete idiots from time to time as well. It took me a lot of failed attempts, but I finally killed all of them. I tried to kill Davison, but I couldn't get hidden before the door opened up, so that was a no-go. I did end up killing this ghoul and taking his stuff though. That was pretty fun. After one last check around RepCon, I decided to leave with my pockets heavy from all the stealth boys I had acquired. I had about 11 of them, and I really thought that they would be enough to beat the game, but I couldn't have been more wrong. The problem with stealth boys in New Vegas is that they are much more difficult to get if you can't talk to people and do quests. I'm specifically talking about doing Caesar's quests, because you can get a lot of stealth boys from doing those. Now that I'm all set, I can finally start making my way to the Strip. Some Viper gang members behind this billboard had to pay the toll for using my road, so they paid it with blood. This prospector was a nightmare. He had an incredibly high perception and noticed almost everything I did. I actually got quite lucky and got a sneak critical with a grenade. You honestly never really notice that almost everything has a stupid high perception in this game until you try something like this challenge. I continue onwards to the Strip and end up killing the Lonesome Drifter for his guitar. I also leveled up to 6 and thought it would be a good time to go over skills again. This is what my skills look like. It really didn't take too long to max out Sneak, honestly. I passed by Camp Golf on the way there, and for some reason I don't actually discover it when I'm there the first time around. Don't worry, I kick myself for that later. I end up heading to Gunrunners so I can finally showcase what makes this challenge possible in the first place: Stealth Boys. I've already said many times that I need Stealth Boys to beat the challenge, but I haven't really explained why. See, if you use a Stealth Boy and initiate dialogue with this robot, you stay hidden while you enter the dialogue menu, down to the frame. The same thing happens when you exit dialogue as well, so I'm still technically undetected. But if you feel like that's not how it works, let me know in the comments. This also only works with robots, since when you try to pickpocket them, it just initiates dialogue anyway. After looking through the robot's inventory, I decided to wait to buy more supplies until I had more caps, since the only way I can trade is by using a Stealth Boy. Once I'm in Freeside, I kill Dixon and Rotface, and for a while I attempt to kill these children until I realize that they're children. The thugs ended up being annoying because even if you kill them once, they will probably respawn anyways again. Also, these children were a pain in the ass since I couldn't dome them, so I had to use a Stealth Boy to get past. I kill everyone outside of the King's place, and the hooker across the street too. I also killed the Van Graff thug and took his armor and weapon to sell later. I shoot old Ben and all the Securitron guards outside of the strip, and then some thugs try sneaking up on me from the side. Not today, asshat. Now we can finally get down to the hardest part of this challenge: the strip. I entered the strip without a Stealth Boy and got detected almost immediately, so I loaded a save and used a Stealth Boy. We're down to 10 now. After a few attempts, I realized that I don't have enough firepower to take down the Securitrons in one hit, so I have to put Benny on hold until I get some better equipment. This is the true beginning of the nightmare that is this challenge. I loaded the save to get my Stealth Boy back, and since I still didn't have enough caps to buy everything I needed, I decided to gain entrance into the Gunrunners compound. It took me several attempts to kill the guards, but they did die eventually. Inside of the compound was actually a lot easier than I expected. I killed every single gunrunner in the compound and left over encumbered. And when I got outside, I used a Stealth Boy, initiated dialogue, and I still didn't have enough caps. Looking back on it, I should have bought something to help me with the next part, but for some reason, I'm stupid. So, I put almost all of my unneeded items into one of the guards' bodies, and I made my way to the Silver Rush. This was absolute agony. I cannot state enough how hard this part was to get past. See, the problem with the Van Graff guards is that they won't let you pass until this little scene happens where Gloria kills a random guy to show a client dominance? I don't understand post-apocalyptic America. Anyways, since I put a Stealth Boy on, the scene won't start because the scene only starts if Gloria knows you're there. And I can't let her know I'm there or I fail the challenge. And these guards are just the worst. If I take a step in any direction, they become hostile since I shot the guard outside. If I kill one, they all scatter and eventually end up finding me. I was on this part for nearly 30 minutes, just attempting random scenarios. I tried to spear them. Didn't work. I tried to shoot them. Didn't work. At one point, I think I even tried to put a grenade in one of the guards' pockets. I don't know why I thought that would work. What did eventually work was killing one of the guards, then leaving and waiting about 5 or 6 seconds, then coming back in when I was hidden and killing another guard. But it only worked so well, and I had to take defeat and only loot a couple of bodies and the stuff from the shelves. Also, as a side note, I actually broke the scripted event so badly that the man that was supposed to get shot just walks out of the building. That's just a small taste of how bad the game gets broken from this challenge. With my pockets now heavy from combat armor and energy weapons, I head back to the Gunrunners compound and grab all of my items from the corpse, and proceed to finally actually buy some new gear. The first thing I did was sell everything that I didn't think I would use for the rest of the game. The next step was buying the anti-material rifle and all the ammo that I could afford. I also bought the suppressor for it too. Now that I had some better equipment, I could finally hit the strip for real. I walked in and used a Stealth Boy before I was detected, and I still couldn't kill anything while being undetected. Sure, I killed everything in one hit with my anti-material rifle, but as soon as I shot it, everyone knew where I was. What actually worked to get me through this part was the Silence 22 pistol and the complete and utter lack of perception that the Securitrons had. Victor stopped to talk to me, and even though I was undetected the whole time, I still reloaded the save just so that I could kill him without talking to him. I then proceeded to kill everyone in this part of the strip, and dressed myself up like a hooker for a bit. Now, it was finally time to confront Benny. So, this might be the part some of you are waiting for. How do I actually get into one of the casinos when the first thing that happens is a person talking to you? Well, I'll tell you. As long as you're not the one that initiates dialogue while you're cloaked by a stealth boy, you're still hidden from humans as well as robots. Once again, if you don't think it works that way, let me know in the comments. The first thing I did was use a stealth boy before the tops. Then I went in and handed them everything but my holdout weapons, which was practically just my .22 pistol. Now, I'm not lying when I say that I killed everyone in the Tops casino. The greeter, all of the gamblers, and eventually Benny. Killing the greeter was gonna bite me in the ass later, but at the time I didn't know that. So I snagged the chip from Benny and went up to talk to Yes Man. Now I'm faced with another problem. I have to use a stealth boy every time I have to talk to Yes Man. You have to talk to him at least 4 times. Once to initiate the wildcard quest, once after you've killed Mr. House, another time after you talk to all of the families of New Vegas, and once to initiate the Battle of Hoover Dam. I only had 6 stealth boys left, and while that is more than 4, there are other parts of the game that I need to use stealth boys for too. So, I shoot the bull with Yes Man, after I kill him once for good measures, and he tells me I have to kill Mr. House if we are to continue working together. I was down with eliminating Mr. House, but these 2 clowns were not. So, as many of you that have played New Vegas know, once you leave the Tops with the Platinum chip, 2 messengers will come to talk to you. One from the Legion, and one from the NCR. Now, I could just kill them and not have to worry about them chasing me down whenever I'm in the strip, but if you kill them, you become vilified by whatever their faction is, and I don't want to have either of the factions notice me. Let's just forget about that ammo I picked up from Ringo, yeah? So now starts some sort of ridiculous game of cops and robbers with these 2 ass clowns. As soon as I leave the Tops, they're both almost immediately on me. I tried to run away for a while, but they just kept catching up, even after I used some turbo. I eventually just fast-traveled back to Good Springs just so I could escape from both of them. Oh look, it's Easy Pete the Dynamite Man. Once I finally put Pete to rest, I decided to wait until nighttime. But then this happened.
Hey, you there. I have a mess.
What the hell? This NCR asshole was a problem the rest of the game. No matter where I went, he would eventually find me. And I could only wait at a location for a few hours before he fell upon me. So now I wasn't just on some sort of pleasure cruise where I could take my time. I had to hurry the hell up, or this creepy messenger was going to give me his package. Another side note. Why the hell didn't the Legion messenger follow me outside of the strip? Why just the NCR messenger? The Legion messenger never once left the strip the entire game. I honestly think it's because the messenger has a crush on that one guy from Friends, and the generic player model looks an awful lot like him. So, hey, this is Futunik. I just had, like, the best realization ever about what I just said. So, Matthew Perry from Friends kinda looks like, nowadays at least, kinda looks like how the generic model courier looks. Correct? A little bit at least. You can kinda see a little resemblance of what I'm getting at. But then I remembered that Matthew Perry voices Benny, and my mind just exploded. I think we're hitting a Matthew Perry all-time high here in the Fallout New Vegas realm, okay? I just thought I'd bring that up. So now that I was on the lam from the NCR, I had a very great hiding destination in mind. Red Rock Canyon. There were 2 reasons for this. 1, I could easily discover the location for the wildcard quest, and 2, I needed some more turbo so I could try to outrun the Legion messenger at the strip. At first, I tried to go through Cazador Canyon, but they were just a little too fast and perceptive for my tastes. So I had to take the long way around and go through Deathclaw territory. Honestly, it's the lesser of 2 evils. I can easily kill a single Deathclaw, but when they're in groups of 2 or more, that's when it gets a little tricky. So I decided to take a chance and wait for a few hours, since it was almost night. Everything looked pretty safe, and then this dick reared his head. I killed him because I was pissed off, and then I reloaded the save and decided to not wait until nighttime. I eventually made it past Deathclaw territory and closer to Red Rock Canyon. I ran into some more powder potatoes, but decided to leave them alone. I killed a few more bighorner outside of the canyon, and I finally made it. The first thing I did was actually discover Red Rock, and then I decided to take out some of the guards by Papa Khan's place. Regis gave me a little trouble, but I eventually found a spot where he wouldn't notice me. I looted his tent, and wouldn't you know it, he had a stealth boy in his duffel bag. I decided that I would end up killing most of the Great Khans, so I went into Papa Khan's house and started blasting with the anti-material rifle. It didn't work very well. The .22 pistol and some psycho did, however. This caused me to bump up to level 10. This will probably be the last time that we do a skill check, because my sneaking guns are maxed out, and that's all I really need. From there, I apparently speared Carl in the butt, and couldn't open the door to Papa Khan's room. Let's just scratch that last part about needing only sneaking guns. After failing to kill Papa Khan, I headed for the Great Khan drug lab and killed Diane and eventually killed Jack with a sneak critical foot shot. I proceeded to the upper part of the Great Khan camp, and like an angel from the heavens, this bastard showed up again. I reloaded his save and fast traveled back to Good Springs. I waited for a few hours to try and bring him as close as I could to Good Springs, but it was too late. By now I was getting really salty with this guy. I just reloaded again and waited for less time. I traveled back to Red Rock and found a tent that had some more turbo in it, and by the time I left I had 4 doses. I was now ready to kill Mr. House. I travel back to the Strip North Gate and head in. A traveler prevents me from actually making any progress, so I loaded a save and had to immediately use VATS to kill him to stay hidden. I tried to find where that Legion messenger went, and noticed that he was absolutely broken. So much for getting all of this turbo. Inside the Lucky 38, the first 2 Securitrons were complete pushovers, but the ones upstairs were a little harder to deal with. I eventually decided to not kill any of them, since every time I have to enter this room after I kill Mr. House, I'll be under the cover of a stealth boy. I honestly felt a little bad for Mr. House because he technically got killed by a person he didn't even know existed. With House taken care of, my next goal was to return to Yes Man and let him have control of the Lucky 38. But it's never that easy. During my murder of Mr. House, the messenger had somehow fixed himself? Why can't these things ever be easy? I tried many times to get past the messenger without using the stealth boy, but that's what it ended up boiling down to. So I used one, and he broke again? What the hell is even going on in this game anymore? I just walked past him and went to the tops, but a new problem I mentioned earlier reared its head. Remember how I killed everyone in the tops and said that killing the greeter was a mistake? Well, it's time to pay my dues because I went to the tops and couldn't move. At all. I was stuck in the transition from the small cutscene that plays when you enter the tops to when the greeter interacts with you. But since there's no greeter, I'm stuck here. I didn't really want to load a save from all the way back when I killed Benny, so I searched for a solution, and as it so happens, there is a console command to fix this problem. Enable player control. Now, I'm not going to count that as a cheat, and that's mainly because it's a glitch in the game that caused me to be stuck here. I was still under the cover of the last stealth boy I had used, so I didn't have to waste one to talk to Yes Man. I told him to meet me at the Lucky 38 and left the Tops Casino for the last time. I immediately fast traveled to the Strip's North Gate to avoid the messenger. I decided to try turbo again since my stealth boy wore off, but it was pointless because the messenger was still broken. I head into the Lucky 38, talked to Yes Man, and realized that I'm not wearing a stealth boy. I reloaded and used one of my 4 remaining ones, and was whisked away to the basement to watch the show. It was at this point that I realized that by the time the showing was done, my stealth boy would run out. So I tried for a little bit to leave early, but I just didn't figure out a way to do it. I ended up having to waste another stealth boy. Now I was laughably low on them. I decided that it was time to meet the rest of the families of New Vegas, so I went to the White Glove Society and killed Mortimer and whoever this girl was. From there, I headed back to Red Rock Canyon, because for some reason discovering the location didn't seem to work the first time. I just had to walk into the center of Red Rock Canyon to have talked to the Khans. Next was the Brotherhood of Steel. I expected them to put up a little bit of a fight, but they didn't. I wanted to loot the whole bunker, but I could only get to right before the turrets. I already dealt with the Omertas, so the only family left to talk to was the Boomers. These assholes get a section all to themselves, for many reasons. I was never very good at infiltrating the mortar field, and that didn't change for this playthrough. What I would normally do is rely on turbo to get me past it, but I only had 1 dose left. The next couple of minutes are just me taking a lot of drugs and hoping that I would be able to heal fast enough to not get my legs blown off. I finally made it, but there was a problem. To get in the base, you need to talk to this guy. At this point, I had wasted my last stealth boys at the Ultralux dealing with those white glove bastards, so I couldn't get in. I even tried to just kill this guy, but you can't do it. The bullets just pass right through him like a ghost. I don't want this video to run past 30 minutes, so we have to pick up the pace now. I needed stealth boys, but I got all of the easily accessible ones. I searched the internet to see where I could find more, and apparently they spawn quite frequently in the footlockers at Camp Golf. Considering that I didn't actually discover Camp Golf the first time, I had to walk all the way there. I did end up getting a few stealth boys from the footlockers, and one from inside the main building, but I still wanted more. I decided that I would raid Black Mountain because there were Nightkin at the top, and they had a chance to have a stealth boy after you killed them. I'm not going to go over Black Mountain too much. That's mainly because I spent a very long time trying to get to the top, and when I got done with all of my hard work, I had nothing to show for it. I didn't get a single stealth boy from Black Mountain. But this guy showed up again, though. I decided that the stealth boys I picked up from Camp Golf would have to be enough. I stopped at Gunrunners to replenish my dwindling supply of anti-material rifle ammo, and headed back to the boomer base. When I got to the gate, I used a stealth boy, and the guard talked to me. I was taken to Pearl, and she asked me to help her, so I did, by putting a bullet in her head. This made the rest of the boomers mad at me, and I had to leave the premises. But before I could do that, I wanted to stop by the armory because I had heard that there was a stealth boy to be had in the ammo container. It was now time to start the end of the game. I went back to Yes Man and told him I didn't care about any of the tribes of New Vegas. He asked me to stop the assassination of President Kimball of the NCR, and I politely declined. The last stop before the Battle of Hoover Dam was to install the override chip at the El Dorado power station. Good thing I already discovered the location to it, and dispatched all of the guards inside with a single explosive round from my anti-material rifle. The Battle of Hoover Dam starts now. I talked to Yes Man and was teleported to the battle. I had 2 stealth boys left for this part, and I knew I needed one to talk to General Oliver and Yes Man right at the end of the game. The NCR and Legion soldiers at the front of the dam weren't too bad to deal with, as long as I could stay hidden. The ones near the entrance to the dam's inner workings were a little more of a pain. I ended up getting stuck at this portion for a while, trying to figure out how to kill these Legion soldiers. Since there were 2 in front of me and 2 to the side of me, I tried to set up some mines for the ones that spawned in from the side, and that partially worked, but what I ended up having to do is use one of my stealth boys, which put me in a very dire situation later. Once inside the dam, I hooked up Yes Man, flipped the switch to end the dam's ability to make power, and was able to sneak past all of the soldiers. When I left the dam, it wasn't the NCR or Legion that gave me trouble. It was the Securitrons that Yes Man sent to help me. For the life of me, I just couldn't seem to take them out before being noticed, and I couldn't use my last stealth boy either. In the end, I had to reload a save from when I was trying to kill these Legion guards. I attempted to kill them with mines again, and it actually eventually worked. I also stopped trying to kill these 2 with my anti-material rifle, and switched to a rocket launcher I picked up from the boomers earlier. Now that I was able to get past this part without using a stealth boy, I did the whole thing again. I hooked up Yes Man, I flipped the switch, and I ended up killing some of the guards this time around. Once I was out, I just used a stealth boy and made my way to the Legate's camp. The Praetorian guards were actually pretty easy. The hard part was killing the Legate and these 2 assholes up above him. I took all of my drugs and used my last stealth boy. I now had a 2-minute timer to beat the game. I killed the guards up above the Legate, and then he went to check out what happened to them, and it gave me a perfect opportunity to blow his head off. I only had a little bit of time left, and the guards that spawned in after I killed the Legate were being a pain in my ass. I eventually got a few nice rocket shots in without being detected. I was sneaking as fast as I could, and I made it to General Oliver while still being hidden and with time to spare. I decided that Oliver would die, but not by my hand. I made Yes Man and his robots kill Oliver and his goons, and went into dialogue with Yes Man for the last time. I went in undetected, and then the finale cutscene plays, and I beat Fallout New Vegas without ever being detected. I also broke the end cutscene somehow. Wow, that was an absolute ride. I never recommend doing this challenge unless you hate yourself as much as I hate myself. Also, once again, if you have any disputes about some of the workarounds I had to do for this challenge to actually work, let me know in the comments. Make sure you check out Mitten Squad's content if you even slightly enjoyed this video. His link will be in the description. Also, think about subscribing to my channel if you enjoyed this. I'm thinking about doing other challenges for non-Fallout games in the future, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, stay safe out there, and peace out.